Hello, and welcome to another episode of Inspiring Women Leaders. Today, it's my pleasure and an absolute honor to welcome to the show my friend and fellow physician coach, Dr. Diana Mercado-Marmarosh. Dr. Mercado-Marmarosh is a family medicine physician, clinic medical director, and chief medical officer. She's also founder of OverAchieve Life Coaching, a company designed to help physicians and medical students create systems that are so simple that, in her own words, even someone with ADHD can implement them via group coaching. For the past decade, prior to discovering life and ADHD coaching, she was someone that had 200 charts open and a graveyard of unfinished projects. But all that has now changed. She's now on a mission to help physicians and medical students create systems that support their zone of genius and reclaim 5 to 10 hours per week of their personal life. Her clients learn to leave work at work. She's happily married, has a 3-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. She enjoys travel, painting, zumba, yoga nidra meditation, and exploring different cultures. So welcome to the show, Diana. It's such an absolute honor to have you. I'm so pleased to see you.
Thank you so much. This is going to be so amazing. I can't wait to chat with you today.
Cool. Thank you very much. So in your own words, please would you tell the audience a bit more about yourself, including what your current work roles are and what leadership positions you currently hold or have held in the past, please?
Sure. I'm a family medicine physician. I'm in Texas. I've had all kinds of roles. When I think back, even all the way till like middle school and high school, I was always running to be the president of this, the president of that, or the treasurer of this, secretary of that. I mean, that's just always been my tendencies. And I didn't realize why until I guess when I finally got diagnosed with ADHD during my first year of med school, I realized that it was because I was trying to have a seat at the table to change things so that they could be easy for me to implement so that I could have a say so on how to do certain things. So and I think it was because I wanted to be inclusive of everybody, and I wanted to make sure that everybody felt like they were being heard. And I know there's a difference from being heard and actually changing the system, but if you're not even aware that something might be wrong, or if you're not even allowed to be in the room where change can happen, then nothing happens, right? So I think the leadership roles that I have carried throughout my life, have always been there to facilitate that. So of course, in residency, I was the chief, resident. And of course, I was managing everybody's business, right? And oh my God, that was fun to try to keep everybody's 20 doctors' schedules aligned and on call and covered. But it definitely teaches you to be able to step into people's strengths and to be able to allow them to shine in their zone, and then to facilitate whatever they might not be so keen on doing, so that everybody can function better. And so yes, then of course, in my mind, I never doubted I would become a medical director one day. I thought I was probably going to be in my 50s when that happened. Little did I know I was going to be when I was 35, right? So it's crazy how things just kind of fall into place. Again, I think as you keep showing up and you keep speaking up, and now I know that ADHD can be something that allows you to say out loud what other people might be thinking, but we already kind of said it because we didn't have that impulse response to wait a few minutes to, but I think it's things that need to be said, and you can still at least get people to think about stuff. And then later on, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I became the chief medical officer of my hospital. And of course, all amazing timing, right? With COVID and all. And so, so that was fun, of course. But I think the whole time my focus was, how can I help my mental health? How can I help my colleagues' mental health? And how can I help my patients' mental health? And it always went back to not being judgmental and really thinking, because there was times that I wanted to be mad because why are people not wearing masks? They're putting me and my family at risk.
Yeah.
But stepping into it from the point of like, okay, what if they really genuinely think that this is not a thing? Like, why would they want to like do XYZ if they haven't been educated properly? So I really had to like think about it from different angles so that I wouldn't like work myself up and like be so mad at the world for whatever we were going through. Because when we went through training, nobody said, hey, one day you're going to be in the middle of a pandemic. And so there was no set of instructions. But honestly, even if there were, I don't know if I would have followed them. So here we
are. Well, yeah, as well as I know you, and we don't know each other that well, but we're working on it. I definitely get a sense of that. But I think that's fantastic. That's your strength, actually. You know, speaking up and calling stuff out. And a couple of things you said there. It's very prevalent, isn't it, that people who are diverse, whether they're neurodiverse, whether they're ethnically diverse, sexuality diverse, whatever diversity it is, think, oh, you know, what's the point in going for that leadership role? You know, it's not going to achieve anything. Nothing's going to change. I'll be the token person on the committee and I'll just be ignored anyway, kind of thing. And the number of times I hear that, and I always say, well, look, you know, you might be that person that actually is heard and is able to make a difference. But if you're not at the table, you have no influence at all. At least you have potential to have influence. So I love that you know, thought like that at a very young age, and we're ambitious for medical leadership. And I just love, I've written down here, skyrocketed to leadership. You know, I'm going to be a medical director in my 50s, and then at the age of 35, you're a medical director. And, you know, knowing you as I do, really, there was only you could have had any doubt about that. I look at you and I think, you know, she is an incredible person. There's no doubt in my mind that she would have made it a lot earlier than that. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So you've already told us a little bit about this, but in a sort of a nutshell, how would you describe your personal leadership style?
Yeah, so I think my personal leadership style is seek to understand before being understood. I think most of us, and believe me, people with ADHD, we want to talk. But having that mindfulness to be quiet and let the other person say what they want to say and really listen, not judge them, but really try to understand where they're coming from, because then you can start to approach them and you to make it a winning situation. It could be win-win instead of like, how can I da 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 da, you know, even if you think that both of you are like, you know, north and south, and you're like way like there's no way, you know, that you would ever get to a place. I think you first have to understand the other person. You don't have to agree with the other person and you don't have to do what the other person says. But if you give them the respect of even trying to understand where they're coming from, and then showing them how if we do XYZ together, it can get us one place, it's such a big difference. I'll give you an example that I guess I didn't realize I was doing this, but I've been doing this all along. I was a junior in high school, and I had gotten accepted as a sophomore to go to this program in Washington, D.C. It was world leaders, da 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 da, and it was like, I don't know, $1,000. Okay, for that, for somebody like me, where I grew up, like that was like, $10,000. Like that's just the way it was. And so my mom got, she's like, okay, well, we're going to sell some tamales. We're going to do whatever raffles, whatever we need to do to fundraise so you can go. So I go. Amazing, right? Next year, guess what? I got invited back. So I approached my principal at that time. I was like, hey, what do you think? Can I go again? Like da 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 da. And I was like, and what about like you guys pay a part of it? Because I'm representing your school. I'm da 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 da, right? And then they said, well, why would you want to go again? You already went last year. And so I was very clever. And I said, so you're telling me that you don't drive to the same place every single day to come and teach and work with the same colleagues every single day and different students. I go, so you're telling me that doing something the same, it's always gonna be the same and it's not worth it. So why are you coming? I said, I go, why do you let the people who, if they were in the state playoff last year, why do you let them go again to play football or to go run or to go do whatever? They already went last year. Why would you want to send them again? It doesn't make any sense. I go, why do you only allow athletes to thrive, but not people who want to make a change in the world in leadership positions? This doesn't make sense. And then he's like, Diana, how much do you need? You had me at hello. So like, here's the thing. I told them, I might have to fly to the same place in Washington, D.C. I go, but the people I'm going to meet are going to be totally different people from all over the world that one day I might get to know.
Yeah.
And so I think that it is in seeking to understand. I asked him, I heard him. And then I said back, look, you do it too. We all do it. But the things that are worthwhile, we repeat because every time it changes us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. There would have been different participants to meet, different facilitators, and the whole, different conversations would have been had. So different opportunities for learning. Yeah, of course. Makes sense to you and me. But that's a great example. I mean, the whole listening thing is something that, we're taught at medical school. Listen to your patients, ask open questions, don't close them down, don't interrupt them. And then again, we train coaches. We're taught to hold space, to let people speak, to give them unconditional positive regard, i.e. not judge them. So you are, kind of living, breathing example of the best medical student and the best coach, by doing all that. And you didn't even realize you were doing that because it was way before you were a doctor and a coach. So great to hear that. Thank you. So, can you tell us about your journey to leadership then, to your, I mean, obviously thinking about your clinical, director roles and so on, and chief medical officer roles, but also, you're a leader in the field of coaching physicians with ADHD. So tell us a bit about that.
I think it goes back to the same thing. Like most of us want to think, I have nothing to say. Who am I to say? Da, 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 da. But I keep challenging myself and asking myself, well, what if you don't say what you need to say and somebody else does not benefit, or somebody else continues to think that they're the only ones who are doing X, Y, and Z, right? And so because of that, those are my thoughts that have always propelled me forward. So in medical school, I didn't see a lot of people that, looked like me. So I wanted to make it a point to be very active in the Hispanic club and try to attract more people. And like, even though we were like maybe 5 Hispanics, like you wouldn't have known, like we put together some salsa like events. It was amazing. We would draw like hundreds, thousands of people. We would fundraise money. We would use that money for scholarships to attract more. And so it ended up being that by the time I graduated medical school, all of a sudden, UT Health Science Center in Houston became from being like, I don't know, 50th in Hispanics to being number 4, right?
Wow.
Like, why? Because you keep showing up and you keep being you, and you just keep letting people know that, hey, I'm here and you can be too. You don't have to like not be. And so with me, with my ADHD, I think I was in the closet. I didn't want to tell anybody I had ADHD because I felt ashamed. It was my thoughts that made that it was, no, people were gonna judge me. I different things like that, and it was because I wasn't I guess I wasn't told that, hey, you could do it your own way and it's okay. I was just told, okay, well, here's some meds and good luck. And that's it.
Yeah.
And then, I become an attending, and they're like, well, you don't need to come here anymore. You need to like go see, this is the student health. You need an attending. Just go to any, other physician. You don't need to come to the student health. So I pick a random person. You would think in Houston, to me, it's the mecca of the world of medicine. So I should have been able to pick any physician, any attending, a psychiatrist. But the first one I picked tells me, well, you're a physician. You should know better. You outgrow ADHD. So that's where I then neglected my diagnosis for 10 years. And that's why I said I was in the closet. And it was not until the pandemic hits that I'm like, oh, shoot, whatever systems I was kind of trying to use just were not enough, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, okay, wait, I'm already using coaching. I'm having like big strides, but I can't still ignore that this is just the way my brain works. What if I become curious? What if I start to lean into it and start to see my strengths and use my strengths instead of working against my strength or against myself or my tendencies? And so with that being said, I think that made a big difference in me then deciding that, 20 to 30 hours of outside of work charting was just not acceptable, that I was not being compensated, that was about $5,000 to $6,000 that I wasn't getting paid every Q2 weeks, ended up being about $50,000 times 10. That's about $500,000 of uncompensated work, right? In a decade. And not to mention like all those eye rolls that your partner gives you because you tell them you're about to be done and you're not done. And you charting like as you're trying to go on vacation and all that stuff, right? So I think that's when I realized, okay, I'm pretty sure it's not only me. I mean, there's statistics out there that show that, in 2016, 1/3 of the medical class in the US said they had ADHD. So I'm like, some of them became physicians. So it's not just me. People are just not talking about it. So let's talk about it so that we can, once it's out there, then you can make changes, right? Like it's with everything. You don't know what you don't know. And if you don't talk about it, it's like the best kept secret, but it's the secret that's eating you up, that it's not allowing you to. But now if you know, then you can do workplace accommodations, use a timer, maybe modify if you're somebody who's a morning person, maybe heavy loaded on the top and light loaded on the bottom, or decide, okay, well, maybe I need a scribe, or decide, okay, maybe when I'm on call at the hospital, I'm going to have a lighter load in the clinic so that I don't have to multitask as much, right? So the point is that one just has to speak about it, because if you don't speak about it, then there is no way for the leaders to be able to support you. Because, unfortunately, people have to understand that ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder that is gonna present and impact executive function, inattention, impulsivity, emotional dysregulation. And what happens is that, unfortunately, some of us can get labeled as unprofessional, right? Because we're not finishing our charts, or we're interrupting our colleagues in a meeting, or we're fidgeting, or we're always late, or whatever, right? But what if that person was not even aware that they were doing that? Like, what if they thought, but how come they don't see me? I'm working like 40 hours outside of work. How come they don't see I'm struggling, right? And then you penalize them for like not doing their job, but that's all they've been doing and overdoing and beyond doing, right? And so I think as a leader, I decided, you know what? I need to educate other people to know this is how ADHD can look like. Maybe your colleagues have it. Maybe you can approach them and say, hey, this behavior, I wonder if you're aware of it. I wonder if there's something else there. Because, most of us, like you said it, and I said it, I had an ungraveyard of projects. It's not like I didn't want to finish them, but I was onto the next shiny object that would draw me in, that was exciting, right? And so this is why it's so important for us to lean on each other as persons first, right? Like, because if you don't, then you just start to see each other as like, their RVUs are down, or da 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 da, or da 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 da, right? But we're all human first. We're all somebody's husband, or father, or friend, right? So we need to do for others what we would want somebody to tell us. Like, I'm so grateful that my roommate when I was in medical school said, Diana, I see you studying like 90 hours a week. Why are you not retaining information? Like, I see you, like I asked you a question, you answer, but then you're like all over the place. And I don't know how you jump from that to that to that. She's like, but you got to the right answer. But why did you take so many steps? And she's like, and how come you're only like answering, like, she's like, you're not passing that test. But she's like, you had all the way down in the last 30 questions, and you only answered like, 2/3 of it, and the 2/3 you answered, you got right. And so it's like, you're just running out of time. Like, what is going on? And so I think it's being a leader means that you have to be able to just look around, because we are like, the person in your team, the weakest link, you're the weakest link too. Like, we all pull each other, right? So why not help your colleagues and help yourself if you're the one struggling? Asking for help is a sign of strength, but most of us are not even aware when the damn red light is on. Like, we don't even realize that we need to ask.
And so obviously, you using your own experience, your own kind of like medical condition, you're like, something has to be done about this, and you just owned it, and you stepped into that role, and now you are forging the way, pushing boundaries and frontiers. Amazing. So I'm quite interested to know if there were in your medical journey and leadership journey, if there were any doctors senior to you, female or male, that kind of helped you rise, because obviously it was a very meteoric rise to your medical leadership. So did you have any lift as you climb kind of colleagues along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, so this is really funny, but I think all along, I don't know, people always say like, you have a North Star, like you're always at the right place at the right time. and I think I am, but I think it's also part of me being resourceful and looking for opportunities, or making an opportunity where maybe there might not have been, right? So I so there was two people I would think were instrumental. Well, there's always more than two, but there's two
Yeah, of
that
course.
really come to mind. And the first one I would say would be the medical dean of my school for medicine. At that time, and I was kind of talking to you about this a little bit earlier, during my medical interview, and I just had one medical interview when I was applying for medical school. Most people have a lot of them. I had one. During that time, you know, they always tell you anytime you go meet with somebody, know a little bit about them or about their institution or your job or whatever, so that it shows that why you're interested and what they have to win going working with you, and what you got to win working with them. It has to be a win-win situation, right? So when I applied for medical school, I got one interview, and during the interview I was asked, you know, if I had any questions at the end. You know, they always ask, do you have any questions? And so my question was, I said, I see, and at that time, mind you, I didn't know I was speaking with the dean. I asked, so I see that, you know, in the last, you know, 10 years, the incoming class usually has about 10% of different ethnicities other than 90% of Caucasians. Is that like the norm? Do y'all have a quota? That was my question. Do you have a quota? Okay, so that obviously raised a reaction from the other person. They probably thought I was calling them, you know, racist, because I was speaking with a white female, right? And she slammed her hand on the desk, and she's like, there is diversity here, da 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 da, and she went on and on and on. And I was like, okay, well, I pressed a button. And then so most people would have probably like been shocked by that, but I wasn't taken aback. And then I was like, you know, I said, the reason I asked that is because I'm Mexican American. I grew up in Mexico till I was 10. That was my first language. I'm now in the US. I'm in South Texas, but it still feels like Little Mexico. 99% of the people around me are in Little Mexico. It feels like that. It was not until I was a sophomore that I went to a program. It was called Upper Bound Math and Science, where I finally was surrounded by all these other ethnicities and amazing human beings. And I go, it changed me. I already knew in my mind that we were all different and that we were all unique at the same time. And I never questioned like one person being more valuable than another. All that was in my mind had always been like something that I had. But it was not until I lived it did I really like embodied it and like understood it. I said, so I want to make sure I'm in a place, I said, where I can have that diversity in my medical training, in my colleagues, so that I can treat my patients well and I can grow as a person. Like I do love all the cultures. I love tasting all their foods. I love all the religions. I just love like the stories of what makes us who we are. And why we do what we do. And so I told her that, and then she was like, and then I could see her like relax. Because at first she was ready to attack me, right? Almost. And then she relaxed. And then she said, you know, that's one of the things that I've been very passionately working towards. So then all of a sudden I had an ally. She was now like, okay, this girl is gonna me. I'm gonna do stuff to promote what she has like been trying to do in her own school of bringing in more ethnicities. And so when I asked her that, I didn't know I had pushed a button that she felt I was attacking her for like not having enough, although that was her life work, what she was wanting to bring into the world and do, right? And so then I told her, you know what? And I told her, I said, because she then asked me, well, what are you going to do if you don't get in? And I thought she was doing it because, you know, I just pissed her off, right? And then I said, well, if I don't get in, I said, you'll see me here every year for the next 10 years. I'll be applying. I'll be making sure my application looks better and better and better. You know, I do understand my grades are not stellar, but I go everything else in terms of like completion and my GPA, like that was amazing. And you could see a trend from like so to like straight A and ending up with a great GPA. I go, so you can, my 4 years or 5 years, 4.5 years it was that it took me, because I did become certified as a teacher. I go, it shows you that I am somebody who is willing to put in the work. So anyways, the point is that she was so instrumental in helping me grow throughout my medical career, because I helped her set up those systems to attract more Hispanics, to attract more African American, because I was actively helping her. Like I would screen the applications, I would interview people, I would talk to them during this stuff, and it just, she gave me she took me under her wing and helped me to make an impact, to be in the room and to see how, oh my God, they literally have 2 minutes to discuss your life. Like you have those two people who interviewed you, they put a timer, they talk about you in 2 minutes, the pros and cons and and then your life is decided whether you're in med school or not. And like she gave me all that insight and allowed me to come back there and to say and to question some of those physicians who had thrown a person down or said, no, this one, but she said, no, my medical student over here, she has something to say. And like she allowed me to speak on behalf of some students who otherwise would not have. And so this is like how I feel like she showed me and she allowed me to be in the room, to make myself available for the opportunity. So it could have easily been that I could have just stayed quiet and been like, well, I don't belong in this school. Obviously, I just have one interview. There's only 20 people out of the 200 and maybe 3 look like me. What are my chances? Why do I even try, right? But that was one of the persons that was so instrumental. The other person, okay, so I was supposed to be, well, not supposed to. In my mind, I thought, you have an idea of your mind of what you want to do. I thought I wanted to do adolescent medicine, okay? And in my mind, it was going to be this peachy thing where I'm just talking to teenagers all day and I'm just going to be telling them, hey, like, your goals really define you, and, don't be sexually active too soon, and you have your whole life ahead, like explore, because in my mind, it was going to be like high school, like how I was teaching high school students, that's what I thought. Oh no, adolescent medicine is not that. Adolescent medicine in the States, at least, unfortunately, it's those people who really need your help because they're in bulimia or they've been sexually abused or all these other stuff. So it's a little bit, it's not the cool people, not that the other ones aren't cool, but it's the harder cases that can be not so like, easy peasy, and not that that's bad, but that was not what in my mind I had envisioned. Anyways, so I went to like 10, 20 different interviews for being a pediatrician, because eventually I thought I was going to go into residency at pediatrician and then do this fellowship into adolescent medicine. I ended up showing up at a friend's second look. She was being interviewed for a family medicine position, and she was having they welcomed Baylor College of Medicine welcomed them to come back so that they could then pick their applicants. Well, I went with her because free meal, why not, right? So I show up for a free meal again, not knowing who I'm talking to. Here I am talking to and telling them how I had failed my step 1 with 1 point because my dad had passed away like 2 weeks prior, and that I should have known better to delay and taking the test, but I was full throttle and anyways, and then how I went on and passed it thereafter and got my meds changed and and that I was ending late because I had purposely made myself take an 8-week course in the middle of my medical school. I decided to stop everything, go take like an intensive 8-week course to make sure I was going to take my test, that there was no, So anyway, I'm telling him all my story, and he's like, have you considered family medicine? And I was like, no. And he's like, yeah, I think you would be ideal for that. And so anyways, he's like, I'm the medical director and da, 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 da. So he was the medical director for Baylor, right? And he's like, this program where you're here, he's like, obviously this is not the one, because he's like, you didn't apply, but there's this other program that is about to start, and there's like 2 spots. And he's like, and I can introduce you to the person that, if you wow her, you're probably in, because, well, her husband is the dean of da 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 da. And so I was like, oh, okay. So his name was Dr. Khan. That's the physician who was so instrumental. And so anyways, I went home that night. I changed all my applications. He called all my letters of recommendation and said, I'm being a family medicine now. And so here we do that. And then I got in. So anyways, so the point is that you have to be open to opportunity. You have to just, and then I do the same now. Anytime that there is somebody who is questioning anything, I drop everything and I talk to them, because a conversation can change the trajectory of their life. Like that, those conversations change the trajectory of mine.
Yeah. Wow. It's good. They sound really inspiring, those people that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Now I don't want to go down a sort of negative pathway, but just want to know if you've experienced any challenges on your journey, on your leadership journey, and if so, how did you cope with them and move beyond them?
Sure. So, I mean, there's always been challenges in the terms of like people misjudge you, or they don't 100% agree with what you're saying or your leadership style. Like for me, I want to have a meeting, either one-on-one with each person. If there's something going on, I want to talk about it. And some people don't want to talk about it. Some people are like, nah, this is the way it's always been. We don't have to change anything. And I'm like, clearly we do. There's people quitting. Something's not right. We need to discuss this. And so when people try to be a dictator to me or try to tell me how to do my job, that doesn't go well, especially if you're not a physician who doesn't understand the complexities of what physicians have to do. And so I've gotten myself into trouble telling people exactly what I think, but like I said, if it comes out wrong sometimes, but it's because I'm so passionate, and I really believe that that there might be a different way. And so sometimes I have to, words are said, bad words are said, and I'm like, oh my God, that was unprofessional. And then I have to okay, I'll be back. I'm going to go do a 3-minute meditation, and then we're going to talk again, because that didn't go out the way I wanted it. But you can see why it touched or hit a button. So I've been questioned many times. And of course, I have to remember that it's not about me. But sometimes we forget as human beings, we take it very personal that they might be attacking me and my system. But I have to remember they're not attacking me or my system. I have to remember that they are trying to get an outcome, and I'm trying to get an outcome. And so I have to go back to take deep breaths. I'm sorry, that was not appropriate. This is why I got triggered. And telling them, owning it. and then saying, this is how I wish things would be, or why I want us to work together towards X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And so there's been many times, of course, when I was a resident, that happened because sometimes, of course, we have attendings that are above us and they just want to tell us. And it's like, no, you can't tell me when to jump. I mean, you can tell me, but it doesn't mean I'm going to do it. And so it's that, like, sometimes you don't realize that just because you're younger, you don't realize that you still have a say so, even though you're not in that hierarchy, you can still have a say so. And you have to explain why you feel like it's in a different way. But at the end of the day, even if you don't change people's minds, you need to be true to your values, so that at the end of the day, you still like yourself, because you still have to like yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah. So that's really helpful advice. Yeah, be true to your values. If things are spiraling out of control, just take a break and go off and have meditate or do some breathing exercises, and then come back and own it, apologize. And I found that more with patients, when patient situations have got out of control, they've really escalated. Actually, if you apologize and you reset it, moving forward, things are actually much better and much more productive. You've got that kind of tension out of the way, and you can move forward. So that's great. Thank you for that. So yeah, that's, in addition to that, really good advice around navigating your way through those kinds of workplace challenges. Have you got any other advice for our listeners on how to become strong and kind leaders?
Yeah, to become strong and kind. I think if you go back to the same thing, seek to understand before you have them understand you, right? Because when you're compassionate towards others, again, even if you don't agree with what they're saying, it sets the stage on how you're viewing them. Because it's me, if it's me against you, it's always going to be an ego thing, right? But if it's this behavior, this outcome, then it takes it away from me and you. It puts it into perspective of, like, the thing, right? And so I think if you want to be a strong leader, a kind leader, you have to always have that space between what it is that you're seeking, and don't put yourself as the one who has to do it. You have to be strategic, and knowing the who can help you get to where you want to go if you don't know how, right? And understanding that it's a give and take, and you show up and you serve, and it might be that 10 years later you can make that phone call, and thank them, like I did, like a year and a half, or a year ago, I called that dean that I was telling you, and I sent her some flowers out of the blue. I tracked her down. She had moved to another institution. I tracked her down and sent her a big plant, and I said, I could send you flowers, but they're going to die. I'm going to send you a plant because you planted that leadership in me.
Oh, that's really lovely. That's so nice. Well, that's it. I mean, that's, I think, probably a really good take home. But have you got any other kind of final leadership tips or messages for the listeners?
Leadership tips, yes. Always invest in yourself. You are your best asset. I know that's usually what we don't want to do. We always invest in everybody else, but be willing to take that leadership course, be willing to get into leadership coaching, be willing to get into any type of coaching or any type of therapy, or any type of anything that's going to help you get to where you want to go. Because most of us will always say, oh, well, I don't have time, or that's too expensive. But remember, how much do we invest in cars? How much do we invest in houses? How much do we invest in our medical school careers, right? Or sometimes purses. I mean, we might spend like insane amount of money on purses, right? And so think about it like investing in you, it's going to be the best gift, because if your mind is correct, if your spirit is correct, if your health is correct, because you're exercising, you're investing in a gym membership or investing in yoga, investing in whatever is going to refuel you, then that's going to be the fastest way for you to become an effective and an efficient leader, because you're just going to be the example of what is possible instead of just a theory of what is possible.
Yeah. That's great. Really good advice. Thank you. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of come to an end with a couple of things about yourself. What are you currently excited to be working on that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes, I am currently working on my group coaching. I have a 3-month group coaching for physicians or medical students. The physician course, it's by itself, and the medical course, the medical student course is by themselves. So they're 2 different courses. But, you know, you don't have to have ADHD to work with me. If you're somebody who feels like you have chronic procrastination, or if you have a time blindness that, you know, just gets you into trouble with not completing your charts, or by not having enough personal time, and you feel kind of slave to your schedule, like you need to come work with me so that we can set up some systems that will help you work in your zone of genius. And I know you're probably thinking like, I don't have any zones of genius, but believe me, you do. You really do. Like in my group right now, I've worked with like over 40 people in the last year, which is pretty amazing, I think. And they're all specialties. I have endocrinologists, I have psychiatrists, I have family medicine, internists, OBGYN, you name it, pediatricians, like PNMR, like all of them, even some like amazing like insurance doctors that are in the works and changing how physicians get paid with insurances. So it's pretty amazing to work with. Everybody has their own zone, and they might not think it's a zone, but believe me, I don't want to stand there and do the surgery that they're doing. So everybody has their zone, right? And it's the same thing. Like I'm like, I don't want to be catching babies at 2 a.m. Thank God you do, you know? So it's just amazing to step into who you always wanted to be. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm doing my group coaching, and I'm still full-time. I still work in the clinic, and I am still doing rounds. I used to also be the medical director for the nursing home, but I gave that up as of January. I was like, okay, you got to decide. I want to do all the things, but I can't do all the things at once. You got to decide what are the things that are not negotiable. And of course, I wanted to make sure that I had time with my family. So that's why you have to be strategic to have everything that you want and live and practice medicine in your terms. So that's what I'm up to these days. Maybe in 2 or 3 years from now, I might cut back. I might go like 50 or 70% clinical, and then and then the other coaching.
Well, you're an absolutely amazing example of what a physician with ADHD can achieve. When you just kind of, you know, open your mind and figure it out, and so many doctors that you can help. So that's really fantastic. So finally, if any of our listeners would like to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do so? And we'll put all your social media handles and things in the show notes, but have you got 1 or 2 kind of key?
Sure. If they just want to go to my website, it's ADHD-Life overcoach.com. And on there, they can, send me an email through the contact me, or they can register for any of my free master classes that I do once a month. Or if they want to go to my Instagram, that's Beyond ADHD Life Coach. So they can just reach out. And I do have a podcast too, but you could find it through my webpage. But my podcast is called Beyond ADHD, A Physician's Perspective. So reach out anyway, and let's collaborate. Let's see what we can do together. I'm so excited about any opportunities to bring awareness of, how we all can be leaders and how we all can practice medicine in our own way.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely testify to collaborating with Deanna. It's been brilliant. So and we've lifted each other up, haven't we? So thank you for everything you've done for me. Do you have any final words?
Final words. Say no. Say no to things that don't align with you, because if you don't, then unfortunately you're gonna be leaving others' dreams and not your own dream. So be intentional with what you say yes to.
Yeah, that's good. That's very profound and very important. Yeah, thank you. All right. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all your wonderful advice with the listeners. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Deanna. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.